Hey church, this is Pastor Brett. I hope you're doing well today as you watch this video. I know that the times that we live in are pretty uncertain, and I know there's a lot of things going on that are simply not fun. They're actually quite hard and they're quite difficult for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. However, I want to give you a word of encouragement today that even though this situation is very hard, it's very strange, and it's very not fun, that this season we need to recognize from a biblical perspective is 100% ordained by God. Now, I know that sounds trite maybe a little bit, but I think that understanding truly does influence our thinking and how we act and how we respond and even how we live in this moment. And so if we know that this moment is being allowed by God for specific and sovereign purposes, then we can hopefully walk in a manner that's worthy of the gospel. And so I want to encourage you from some of the words of the Apostle Paul in Ephesians chapter 5. In the latter part of that chapter, he's comparing how husbands need to love their wives with how Jesus has actually loved the church. Me and you, we are the church. And so I want to read for you Ephesians chapter 5, a couple of verses, and then I want to encourage you with how we can think through this together. So Ephesians 5, starting in verse 25, says, "Husbands, love your wives." And then he goes on to use this illustration of how husbands should love their wives. "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any blemish, but holy and blameless." Now, again, I want to share that because I want you to see that the way that Jesus is loving us is to actually wash us through the water of the word to make us pure and holy and mature. And so part of the way that God loves us is by cleansing us. Part of the way that he loves us is accomplishing our sanctification. That's just a big fancy term for maturity. And so by Christ's death on the cross, it accomplished many things. One of the most important ones, obviously, are what we've just celebrated with Good Friday and Easter. The cross has accomplished our redemption. It's accomplished our salvation. It's accomplished our justification. But now that we walk as a Christian, he is still in the cross. The cross of Christ still is a part of our sanctification as well. And so we see that Jesus is wanting to wash us and to cleanse us and to purify us, his church, his bride, so that he can present us as a radiant church to himself someday. And so it is God's design for us to grow in maturity, to grow and to be cleansed, to be purified. And part of the way that God purifies his church is through trials and suffering. You can't read the New Testament, especially the book of Acts, without seeing a lot of suffering and a lot of trials and a lot of hardship. Yet what you see as the outcome of those sufferings and those trials is actually a more mature person, a more mature faith, and a more mature bride of Christ. And so I want to encourage you this morning to not only to embrace this season, but to also ask a very important question. What are you trying to teach me right now, God? What do you want me to learn, Lord? What is it in my life that needs to be cleansed, that needs to be purified, that needs to be removed? And if we're being honest, there's always something. I know for me in this season, it's been very difficult to adjust to working from home for the last month, and it'll probably even go longer. But in that, I've seen that there's been little idols in my life, and an idol is something where we give it more time, energy, affection, or worship than God himself. And so for me, often I like to control things. I like to know that I have my schedule, I have my plan, I can oversee the ministry, that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I have a lot of high expectations for myself in those things that I can control. And in this season, God has stripped all that away from me and said, Brett, you really don't have much control of anything right now. I'm in full control of all this, and now he is all the time. But I've been more aware of my own struggle to actually want to control things and be in charge and to have my plans go my way on my timing. And if you already have not noticed, this is a season where none of us get to do things the way that we want, when we want to do them. It's actually all in God's timing, and everything seems to be a question mark of when it's going to happen and how. And so that's really forced me to wrestle with my own struggle and my own idols, so to speak, of am I letting go of control? Am I letting go of my plans and my agenda? And am I really submitting that to the Lord? And that's been a struggle for me. So I want to encourage you in the same way to ask yourself that question. What is God trying to show you right now? What area of your life is not in submission to God? In what ways does God need to purify you? That's the first question. The second question then that follows that is, once God has shown you through his word and through listening to him in prayer what you might need to work on or what he's teaching you, the next question is then, what are you going to do about it? Again, it's not enough just to ask the question and say, what are you teaching me, Lord? And if God says control, then I just go, okay, great. I go about my day. I have to wrestle with the practical implications of how I grow in maturity. And part of that is I need to work on that. I need to let go. I need to submit to him. I need to study those things. And so I want to encourage you too, once you hear from the Lord, then ask him, what specific next steps should I be taking to walk in maturity in this area, to grow in this area? And oftentimes that maybe means boundaries. That often means giving something up. That often means maybe adding something to your schedule or to your life or to spiritual disciplines. It'll mean different things for everybody. But I want to encourage you, church, don't waste this season. It is not often that we in America are stripped of all of our plans, all of our events, all of our programming, all of our going and being busy all the time. It's not often we're stripped of that. And we have been forced into a season by God where we have more time with our families. We have more time to spend with him and his word throughout the day and in prayer. We have more time to sit and connect with people online that maybe we have not before. We have more time to do a lot of things that we have not normally done. And I feel like it's a divine opportunity for us to realign our perspective of our life, to remember that it's not about us. Galatians 2:20 says, "For I have been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but him who lives in me." This life is not my own. Your life is not yours. You don't get to call the shots. It's never been that way at all for followers of Jesus. We submit to him in every area. And so, what area is he trying to teach you to grow right now? And what are you going to do about that? And so, this is a great season, and I hope that you're doing well. I know that this is a trying season, but I also want to encourage you that James 1:2-4 says that to consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, knowing that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And we could really define the word faith as simply a trust in God. So he's testing your trust. But that testing of trust produces perseverance. And that verse goes on to say in James 1:4 that the testing of our faith and our perseverance actually finishes the work. And the work is that it's going to make you mature and complete, a well-rounded person that's walking with Jesus. And so embrace this season, knowing that God is stretching you outside of your comfort zone. He's stretching you outside of areas that you're comfortable with. And I often say, there's no growth inside of the comfort zone. And there's no comfort out here in the growth zone. And so as we're being stretched and as God is growing us and stretching us, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. But that's part of sanctification. So I want to encourage you to embrace this season. Don't waste the opportunities to grow and to mature and to dig deep roots with Jesus and in his word and in prayer and spiritual disciplines, with time with family, discipleship in the home. So many beautiful blessings and gifts are possible right now, but we have to embrace them. And we have to also lay down our own selfish desires, our conveniences, and our preferences. But if we do, we know, and the word promises, that the true and better gift is Jesus himself. So I pray this encourages you today. Again, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you just want to talk about what's going on in your life, I'd love to hear from you. And so my phone number is going to be right here on the screen. My email is going to be right here on the screen. And I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out. Our staff is praying for you regularly. We're here for you in any way that we can. So please embrace the season. Don't hesitate to reach out. And we look forward to the day when we can get back together in person. And I know that when we get back together, it's going to be a beautiful time of meaningful fellowship because we've missed each other. And I think we'll have a profound encouragement and a profound gratitude for the in-person gatherings that we will have in the future. So let's look forward to that day with anticipation. But for now, let's also look forward to the daily opportunities to walk in maturity.